What's up, guys? Happy Friday. Welcome back to Inside the Lines. A lot to get through today. We got MLB playoffs, we got college football, we got NFL props. We're doing a deep dive into the prop market today. Before we get into some of those props, we're going to do a little MLB playoffs with John. 2-1 night last night. Things are looking good, except for the Phillies. Couldn't get it done. Where are we headed tonight?
Yeah, no, 2-1 yesterday. Had a good day. Unfortunately, we've missed the Prize Pick 6-legger by one leg on 3 straight days. So Jake and I might have picked something up. It's impressive and extremely frustrating all at the same time. But so Jake and I need a little redemption. We might have something for you guys towards the end of the show. But what are we going with first? The Astros game or the Phillies game?
Let's kick it right back to the Phils because I like this play here.
All right, well, we're going right back to the Phillies on the money line here. Christopher Sanchez is starting for the Phillies. He's a lefty rookie. He hasn't pitched in the playoffs before. This will be a first career start in the playoffs, so I'm really interested to see how he'll react, but he'll definitely have some nerves. On the other side, the Diamondbacks are just going with a full bullpen game, which is interesting. Their bullpen's been effective this postseason, but it's a lot different when you're covering 9 innings versus 4 or 5 innings. The Phillies bats were extremely quiet yesterday. They ran into a buzzsaw on Brandon Pfaadt. So I really think they wake up today. And I think Christopher Sanchez, he might come out early. I think it's going to be a mostly bullpen game for the Phillies as well. But I think the Phillies bounce back from yesterday.
Okay, cool. I like that. We're doing a little deja vu from yesterday. We have the Astros money line here as well.
Yeah, this one I was going back and forth since last night. I was going back and forth. I was researching, I was thinking, and I finally came up with the Astros and the money line. Mainly just because of a few things. It's Justin Verlander versus Jordan Montgomery today. Justin Verlander has tons of playoff experience, but the thing that he really has experience in is pitching twice against the same team in a series. Jordan Montgomery has never done that, and that's massive because it's one thing to pitch well against a team. It's another thing to dominate them twice in a week against the same exact hitters. So I think the hitters make an adjustment there. And then the other main thing is the Rangers bullpen is honestly terrible. I mean, it's a massive weak spot for them, and they either have to score 10 runs or get 7 innings out of their starting pitcher to win because they have Aroldis Chapman and Jose Leclerc come in, and they're kind of shaky too. So the Rangers bullpen is extremely shaky. The Astros have been great on the road all season. I want to choose the Rangers because I don't think they'll get swept at home in this series, but I've got to go with the Astros as the underdogs.
Right. Yeah, I like that there. Stephen bringing up some good points in the chat. So is Derek. So keep your eye on the chat. John's going to head into the chat as well. Continue to ask your baseball questions. He's here for them. Jake and I now are going to start.
Moose. Don't forget about Moose. Moose is here too.
And Moose, yes. We cannot forget our mascot. We're going to talk a little bit college football props. Those props no one's paying attention to but Jake, and that's why it works, and that's why it's successful. So without further ado, let's get into the deep cuts here.
Yeah, I don't understand the Ethan Kalikmanis interception line at plus 100, considering he's thrown an interception in 5 of 6 games. He's going against an Iowa defense that has an interception in all but 1 game. I just don't. I mean, plus 100 here, I think that's great value. I'm surprised it's not 1.5 interceptions, especially with Minnesota being the underdog. So they're probably going to have to throw the ball at some point in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Iowa, yeah, they don't have much of an offense, but they could run the ball. They could get up in this game. So I like this play big time with Iowa's defense against a quarterback who's interception prone.
Mm-hmm.
The next one, Thomas Padone over 24.5 reception yards. We have him at 34, which is right in line with where he's been since Jeff Sims has been out and Heinrich Haarberg has been Nebraska's quarterback. He's averaging right around 35 receiving yards per game. This line is more indicative if Sims was playing than Haarberg. Haarberg loves to pass to Padone. I really like this play. He's averaging, I think, 40 yards the last couple of games. I think he goes over. This one scares me, the Theo Johnson one, because we were on him a couple weeks ago.
Theo Johnson, really, he's a scary.
We're going right back to Theo Johnson, over 19.5. We have him at 26 yards. Last year, he averaged 16 yards per reception. This year, he's averaging 10.1, I think. So you really just, it's a matter of him getting to 2 receptions this game. And Ohio State, the other defense has been good, but they've been shaky against tight ends. If you watch Mitchell Evans against them, Notre Dame's tight end, he had 75 yards. Corey Dykes, who is Maryland's tight end, he had 40 yards against them. and River Helms, who's West Kentucky's tight end, he had 40 yards as well. So put those all together, especially with our Sims having 26, I like an overplay here.
Mm-hmm.
And the next one, we're going with the same game parlay. Missouri, South Carolina. I don't think there's going to be much defense in this game. Luther Burden has a 39% clip of all of Missouri's receiving yards. We have Missouri's quarterback projected for over 250 yards. So that should put him right around 100 yards easily. We have him projected for, I think, 102 yards. So I just like the 80 yards, which would be a little safe. And he gets all these yards early in the game. And so maybe we don't have to worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
Xavier Legette, similar to Burden, he has a 38% target share and reception yard share. So put that together with Spencer Rattler projected for 250 yards. He should easily hit the 70 yards. So I like fading both of these defenses in this game, especially South Carolina's defense in this game. Mm-hmm. So I like that. And then JJ McCarthy.
I'm under. Oh my God. This is breaking for us.
Yeah, so JJ McCarthy, 21 attempts. We have him at 21 attempts. He's averaging 20 attempts this season. They're 25-point favorites. So there's a good chance that McCarthy doesn't even play a big chunk of the fourth quarter. And Michigan just relies on their run game. Maybe they expect him to throw it a lot more because they want to run up the score against their rivals, Michigan State. But even then, I still think he gets below 25 and a half pass attempts. And the last one, Ketron Jackson for Baylor. This is a play where it's another quarterback change is driving this pick. Earlier in the season, when Blake Shapen was out, Sawyer Robinson was throwing to Ketron Jackson a ton. But since Blake Shapen's been back the last 2 weeks, Ketron Jackson has 1 reception each of the last 2 games, and he has 12 total yards the last 2 games. They're playing against a Cincinnati defense that isn't as good as they've been the last couple of years, but it's still a decent defense. And Shapen's been throwing to Monterey Baldwin a lot, who has over 20% of their target share the last couple of weeks. If you put that together with Shapen not really targeting Jackson a ton, I really like under 37.5 here.
Okay, 2 underplays to end it, but great slate there. I'm going to give you a quick break. We'll bring in Steven. We'll talk a little of our NFL props. Before we get there, I want to answer an NFL question with the model. We're talking about 2 players, Coop and Moore right now. Or Cup and Moore right now. I think anyone has fantasy questions too. Please ask your fantasy questions because we're happy to cater to that too. So maybe if we look at them from a fantasy standpoint and if their prop line is value.
So Cooper Kupp. So the question is, how do we like those 2 players this week? Well, we love Cooper Kupp. He's our number 1 wide receiver for projections, and it's kind of tough to tell about DJ Moore. Most likely a backup QB, but the backup, the success he had outside the interception he threw at the end of the game was to DJ Moore. So we still have DJ Moore as a wide receiver 11. Fantasy Football Today consensus has him as 13. So it looks like a kind of a must start for both those guys.
Right. I like that there. Let's head into some of your props for this week. Now we're really trying to look at where the odds makers have gone wrong and where we think they haven't accounted for certain things or have over accounted for certain things. So tell me about your 3 props here. We like the over on most of these here.
So I start with obviously how our system works is we get a feed of the consensus prop lines, and we just do a quick comparison of the projection, account for the juice and everything else, and it spits out to me all the best overs. And so the first thing that stuck out me is the Mac Jones one, and I look at the ones that it likes. The model tells me has overs, and then I like to cross-reference that with more qualitative, subjective, motivational characteristics. So for Mac Jones, I'm going to go with he's projected for 9 rushing yards. Average is around 8.5, which is obviously both over 4.5. But I like the QB on the hot seat, the limited QB on the hot seat over rushing. Yes. So Derek Carr yesterday was our pick on the hot seat. Can't really throw. So the way these guys have to show that they're, a leader and tough is run the ball. And Carr ran for 10 yards on the first drive, hit that over half a yard really quickly. So I think Mac Jones is going to be in a similar situation. Plus Buffalo gets a lot of pressure, but tied with Baltimore for most sacks in the league. So Mac Jones will get flushed out, and to avoid interceptions, I think he'll take off at least 2 times, enough to get the over 4.5.
Right.
Sam Howell, he's been we're projecting him for 20 rushing yards, which is just in line with exactly what he averages. So it's not controversial there. Wink Martindale's defense with the Giants, they get a lot of pressure. They blitz a lot, but they don't necessarily get sacks. So, and then the biggest thing is Sam Howell in press conferences with interviews saying he needs to take fewer sacks. Sam Howell's a very good runner. He averages 5.5 yards a carry, and he gets around 15% of the team's carries as a starting quarterback. So, the betting line of 14.5 is basically set as a 3 rush times 15 yards number, which see how quick I did that? 3 times 15. It's pretty impressive.
You're so good.
But really, Sam Howell is a 3.5 at 5.5. So that's, that's what I'm looking at here. Baker Mayfield, the last one is the model's got a ton of value in Tampa versus Atlanta this week. And it's not because of their running game. Tampa can't really run the ball very well. So most of their 23 projected points is coming through the air production. And Baker Mayfield has had some big games this year. Yes, the Detroit game last week was not good, but that had a lot more to do with Detroit having a really, really good defense and some drops by Mike Evans, actually, most notably. So I like Baker to bounce back. I love the line early this morning was 218.5 was the best overprice. It's fallen to 215.5 at Fanatics, I believe. So there's also shopping opportunity. If you want to fade Baker, you can get him as high as 221.5 on the under.
Right. Yeah. We like to shop around value there. While I have you, let's answer one more question from the chat with the model. A fantasy question for Big Cheesy about Zach Moss or Rachaad White for fantasy this week.
Moss.
Rachaad White.
We're not going to like Rachaad White, I can tell you. Zach Moss, I mean, we have a little underrated, overrated as compared to the Fantasy Football Today guys. They have him as 19th, and we have him 24th. This is PPR. But then we're still trying to iron out the Jonathan Taylor-Moss split. So that's the reason there. So the FFT guys have Moss above Taylor, and we have the Taylor above Moss right now. So they ease him back in. Rachaad White is, right there in the middle. So this is kind of tough for us to gauge. It all depends on how closely you want to track that that split of carries in Indianapolis. The upside, the interesting thing is when it's basically a tie, you probably want to go with upside. And we have Zach Moss with, less upside than Rachaad White. So I think that because Rachaad White, if they score a rushing touchdown, presumably would be have a much better chance of getting it as opposed to Moss, who would be in a split with Taylor.
All right. The more you know. One more question here in the chat. A prop here at Josh Reynolds over 31.5 yards. Parlay with his 2.5 catches. Go into the game.
So I think so we got Josh Reynolds here. So we have 3 catches for 45 yards. So we like the over in this case, in both. So yeah, I agree. I mean, we don't have Detroit, rushing for many yards per carry, certainly. And I do like, I think that I don't know how this factors into this bet specifically, but I think Baltimore could have some success with Goff with their inside pressure. Baltimore, remember, leads the league in sacks, and we have no edge rushers. We have 1 sack by a person who would be classified as an edge rusher this year. So they're getting a lot of pressure up the middle. I don't know how that impacts Detroit and the potential targets if Goff has to be on the move. But
just wanted to flex on us a good stat about your Ravens. More of a story.
That's what I look for.
Yes, love to see it. All right, we're going to bring in Derek. Derek has a few props as well. It's been a little bit, Derek. Welcome back to the screen.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks. Just digging in these this data and in the chat. Also, one other thing you could do, I'm putting it in the chat now, is when you're choosing between 2 guys in rankings, you can look at the total for the game for the game that you're looking at. So if the total, let's say, is 50 in one game, is the over under total, and then another game is only 35, you probably want to go with the guy that's in the 50 points. Possibly in that game. That's the over under. So that'll give you a little bit of a leg up on some people that are not looking that way. Yeah. Yes, we're on Mac Jones today again. So
we're not
Mac
sure
Jones,
but something about him.
Yeah, well, it's just something about this guy in games and stuff and throwing interceptions. So with this in particular prop, you can go either way on this, depending on what you like in this game. So for if you're trying to take the over, then the line projected with the juice is a 0.57 for getting an interception. Now, the only game this season is only one game this season that Mac Jones has not thrown an interception. Last week, there were reports that he was on a short leash. So if he was turning the ball over, fumbling like he was the previous game, then he probably would have been out of the game last week. But he did finish it. So, hey, he has that for him. So some of the interceptions were not his fault, but there's no stats for that. So we still have it as, him throwing interceptions. The Bills' opponents are averaging 1.3 interceptions per game. And then Von Miller has been back for the last few weeks. So that means that the quarterback pressures and the sack opportunities go up whenever Von Miller is actually playing. Now, for the under of this prop, so that'll be, and also that is at minus 131 is a good price, but you want to shop around for this particular prop because it varies from book to book. If you're looking at the under for this prop, then out of the last 3 games, the Bills' opponents have been throwing only 0.3 average of an interception. So in the last 3 games, the Bills haven't been getting interceptions from the other team. So like the odds projected is reflecting this, I believe, because it's 0.3, not like how I said before with the over that they've been getting over 1 interceptions on average if you take the whole entire season. Mm-hmm. So the Bills do have injuries, so you want to take that into consideration too. So the pressures will definitely go down because of some guys that are injured. So the QB pressures will be down, and then the secondary has less opportunity to get interceptions because they have less experience than the guys that they're replacing. So with them having on the injured reserve list of Matt Milano and Travis Tre'Davious White, since they're out, then that is causing them an issue of getting these interceptions. So those are the 2 sides for the Mac Jones prop.
Right.
The next one that we have on our list.
Go ahead.
Say that again.
You got it. Go ahead.
Okay. So Brett Maher from the kicker from the Rams. So he's since last season, if you take from last season all the way up until now, out of 18 games out of the 24, he has made 2 or more field goals. So when you add the juice of minus 105 to the 1.5 field goals for the prop, then you will have with the juice 1.56 field goals made. So the Steelers allow opponents to make 1.7 field goals per game. The Steelers give up the 15th most touchdowns per game to opponents. So, but if you take out 2 out of the 5 games, which that is where they had over half of their touchdowns giving up, then you will have significantly less of only like two touchdowns given up per game. But they give up the 3rd most total yards of offense to opponents at 398 per game. So that is 3rd to last. So these stats tell me this, that they give up a lot of yards, but they don't give up touchdowns. So that goes with them giving up field goals. That's why their field goal average per game to opponents is up. And also as a league in general, in the red zone, percentage of touchdowns this year is at 53%. Last year, it was at 56%. So in the league in general, not a lot of teams are scoring touchdowns in the red zone. Mm-hmm. So the next prop is Rashid Rice. Yeah. So Rashid Rice, 35.5 receiving yards. So in this prop, which is kind of interesting, is that when you add in the juice on minus 139, which I've been seeing that of some books, then that means that they're projecting 41 receiving yards for Rice. So that just tells me right now that they believe that he's going to go over the 35.5 receiving yards. So that's a plus. Now, the Chargers give up the most passing yards per game to opponents at 298. Yes, Travis Kelce is the number 1 target, but the number 2 target is Rice in receptions and in receiving yards if you go by the percentages. So that bodes well for him going over this prop. Then the Chargers are the worst team against the run last year. But in the offseason, they addressed that, but they did not address the need to keep having a very good passing defense.
Right. All right. Good stuff there. We're going quick out of time, but we're going to bring Jake in. He has a few props too for the NFL, just 2 right here. Let's hit these quick, Jake.
Yeah, I'll go real quick through these. Sorry, Moose got his boy. Michael Mayer, he had 70 yards last week. This is more of just betting on 2 rookies here, where recently they've been going way over, and the lines aren't that exact on rookies because they don't have that much data. We have Michael Mayer at 34 yards. Even with their QB situation, he's getting a ton of targets. So I like the over here. Michael Wilson, we have him projected for 40. He's gone over. He's averaging 50 yards this season. They're going against the Seattle defense, who is shaky at times. So I really like the over here.
Yeah, Michael Wilson. We took a shot at him before with Derek. I think this is the lucky week. I think that's how it's going to work.
Yeah, this pick's in honor of Derek right here.
Yeah.
I think this is the week he gets it.
Yeah. Also, Michael Mayer. He looks like a Disney prince, by the way. Just going to throw that one out there. All right, quick. Let's go through. We have a Flex Friday play. God, you guys have been so close, one leg away barely of all of these. So this is a good thing to take a screenshot of. Anything you want to touch on specifically quickly here?
Just the top 2 guys, Bryce Harper, Ketel Marte, they're seeing the ball so well. And Altuve just rakes when he plays against Texas. Kyle Tucker, he's the one player for Houston who hasn't been hitting. Trey Turner, he doesn't walk a ton and he just seeks pitches, and he's been on fire since they gave him the ovation. And Adolis Garcia, if he's not hitting bombs, he's not getting on base. So I like all these plays a lot.
Yeah, I like it. I feel it. It's coming. We've been so close. It's going to come. We do. Yeah. All right, let's hit a little recap quick. Take a screenshot. Do what you got to do. I'm feeling a good week here. It wasn't our best week last week, so I think that means that this week is going to be out of this world. Now, with that, that's all we have time for today. Sunday night, Steven and I will go live talking about the look-ahead lines for the following week. Best values you can get, really, the look-ahead lines. Steven's predicting these lines pretty well where the odds makers are going. So stay tuned for that Sunday after Early Edge, Sunday Night Football pregame. Look for me and Steven. So good luck with your bets this weekend, and we'll see you later.